What I've always appreciated about groups like this is that it demonstrates that that's not entirely true. That there are great people in academia who think perhaps very differently from each other, but also very much respect the freedom of inquiry and open disagreement that actually makes academia thrive. So I'm opening today this video with a physics article. Quantum information processing using quantum dot spins and cavity QED. Now, I will not lie that I probably don't know exactly what's going on with this article that was published in 1999, but it's pretty dang impressive, actually, what has come of it, and some of the interesting things in physics that you can find here. But I point this out as an article written in part by one of the gentlemen here being, or at least one of the people here, excuse me, being Dr. Alex Small. And the reason I say this is a number of the heterodox thinkers in academia are mourning in the last week the passing of Dr. Alex Small. And that's where I come to this particular piece. Dr. Small was a brilliant physicist, excellent author, excellent physicist from what I could tell. But one of the great things that he is probably lesser known for, but very known for amongst the heterodox thinkers, and particularly those of us in Heterodox Academy, and amongst some of the other heterodox thinkers, was what he did that sparked an awful lot of the online publications and people speaking up and writing and pushing back against some of the nonsense that has enveloped academia in the last few years. And again, why do I talk about higher ed? Well, higher ed is where we train the next generation of scientists. Talked about this before. So it's one of the reasons I talk about what is the climate in higher education, and then how does that translate into the potential effects on scientists, the next generation of scientists, and then on science as a profession, let alone science as the process of getting at the truth. So from the Heterodox Academy, December 12th, 2024. I believe this is also on Free the Inquiry Substack, because that's where I originally saw this title pop up, but this was reposted on the Heterodox Academy's homepage. The OGWG, the lasting impact of a little HXA writers group. In 2021, this is written by Martha McCaughey. Apologize if I mispronounced the name. In 2021-2022, I had the privilege of being an original Heterodox Academy writers group, which gathered HXA members eager to write for public audiences about higher ed. The members of the working group, coming from a wide range of disciplines and working at a variety of universities, met regularly online to give each other feedback about ideas that were brewing or that they just put on paper. Within minutes of sharing a draft, a WG member would find at least 2 or 3 WG members on their document making constructive suggestions. Whether a writer shared their draft at 8 a.m. on a Monday or at midnight on a Saturday, dedicated people, and I really appreciate that. Someone would be there pushing the author to defend their argument more carefully, suggesting citations, or giving an encouraging compliment. We had the kind of free-flowing intellectual conversations that people saddled with full-time jobs and family responsibilities often look back on nostalgically as something enjoyed late at night in their college dorm rooms. Our discussions had an intimacy to them. We trusted one another with our raw, unpolished ideas and occasional rants. That's always great when you get to do that, to just trust folks with the rants. And admittedly, I have done that with some friends of mine, Gina, who who's on a bit of a hiatus right now with Rogue Journal Club. She's been one of those people who's let me do some crazy ranting at her about different things and critiqued me, very sternly critiqued me. I know on the Rogue Journal Club, we ended up agreeing a lot on certain things, but behind the scenes, there was some really, really distinct disagreements that we really had about a lot of those, a lot of topics, actually. And hopefully in the new year, when Gina returns at one point, we'll have some more of those conversations on a not less routine basis, I'm sure, but I will be bringing back the Rogue Journal Club with some guest co-hosts. I have a few folks in mind, but that's for next year. I It was an atmosphere that some of us lacked at our own academic departments and our respective universities. This is one of the reasons why a writers group like this, which Alex Small had a huge part in getting going and working on, is so critical, because you need people who are going to go butt at you and tell you to defend your argument better, give you a compliment, all this kind of stuff. Like, one of my favorites, I saw it in a seminar. One of my favorites was seeing Robert George, conservative as can be, and Cornel West in the same room. And the two of them, despite being polar opposite from each other, are best of friends. Best of friends. And they talk about it, how they met in academia, how they would argue back and forth, how they maintained their friendship, maintain their collegiality, despite, be completely different from each other on a whole host of things. I think it's fair to say that this trust spurred our intellectual growth and willingness to take risks. You need people who are going to be respectful of you and challenge your ideas. And I appreciate that when I run into those folks in academia. I also appreciate that when I just run into those folks out there in the world, because that is so much better. This week, I found myself reflecting on those connections with a heavy heart. Our group lost Alex Small, the brilliant physicist from Cal Poly Pomona, which had been an integral part of the working group. His passing from brain cancer left a void that I have trouble describing. The productivity of this group has amazed me. You may have seen Justin McBrayer's diversity statements are the new faith statements, Colleen Iren's The Problem with Disabling, Brian Gentry's Disagreeing to Agree. I'll have to read that one. I don't think I've read that one on this list. Michael Strambler's A Universal Perspective is Key to Diversity and Equity in Schools, Kimberly Josephson's A Brief History of Corporate Social Responsibility, or Alex Small's Whom Would Jesus Cancel? These are just some of the essays written by some of the members of that first HXA working group. The OG working group was also an incubator for many other ambitious projects. For example, Andrew Hartz founded the Open Therapy Institute, which includes fellow WG members Michael Strambler and Larry Amsel as senior advisors, and Natasha Mott launched a podcast called Neo Academia. Several WG members collaborated on academic papers, such as an article on the reflexivity statements in research, positionality and its problems, by Juko Savalainen, which Juka's work is awesome, by the way. Patrick Casey, Justin McBrayer, Patricia Nana Schwertle. I hope I pronounced the name right. Colleen Iren went on to become a research fellow at HXA's Siegel Center for Academic Pluralism. And me, I ended up working for HXA itself. Many of us met in person for the first time in June 2022 at the HXA conference in Denver. It turned out that some were taller than expected. You know the Zoom box look? That kind of thing. It's always interesting when you think about you're seeing like the top half of a person on Zoom or the top half of a person on a YouTube podcast or whatever, how different they might be actually when you see them in real life. But that's a side tangent. Despite our terms in the HX working group ending around this time, we continued to meet, calling ourselves the Post-HXA Writers Group. The Post-HXA writing group continues to this day. The writing group never got to meet Alex in person. He couldn't join us in Denver back in 2022, but he was looking forward to attending the June 2024 HXA conference in Chicago. He had even scouted live music and other fun for the writing group to enjoy together. Alex was also to be on a panel I had organized about evidence-based teaching strategies. When he told us about his diagnosis and wound up not being able to make the trip to Chicago, one member of our group collected donations and sent Alex a gift from us. One moment. Despite never meeting Alex in person, I felt close to him. He had trusted me to read a work of fiction he was drafting, a witty takedown of academia, of course. And although he was a physicist whose most cited academic article is called Quantum Information Processing Using Quantum Dot Spins and Cavity QED, this article that we found here, And I was a sociologist more concerned with the quantum of compensation in the gender segregated labor force. We shared a passion for fighting encroachment on open inquiry, a mutual disdain for groupthink, and a love of clever puns. Sounds like a group I would have loved to hang out with myself. The ability to connect and collaborate across various lines of difference is often touted as a skill people need for their workplaces or for a democratic society. But the writers group, one of many ways that Chicxay brings academics together, taught me that these exchanges are rewarding for the experience of genuine connection, trust, and love. The writers group reminds me of what's best about academia: curiosity, generosity, and the desire to understand new ideas, and a passion for contributing to something bigger than ourselves. The work we've done was only possible because of the bonds we formed along the way. As we mourn the passing of Alex Small, I want to send Alex, if he can read this, and all the members of the OG Writers Group my gratitude and love. So why did I want to read this? It's a wonderful moving tribute to Alex. And I didn't get to meet Dr. Small, but I did see a bunch of the stuff that the writers group produced. I think I particularly read this one with Justin McBrair's thing on diversity statements, because you all know how I think about diversity statements. I probably very much agree with Justin, just judging on the title, if I remember it correctly. And some of the other things, and Whom Would Jesus Cancel? I may have to go read that one myself just to satisfy my curiosity, because I don't remember reading that one specifically. But the the point of why I was reading this is there are, well, I've talked about it before at length on this channel. Trust in academia has fallen. It has fallen very, very precipitously. And there's some signs in some surveys lately that maybe it's turning around. Okay. But a lot of that has to do with there being a belief that ideological groupthink is the dominant thing in academia. And I think a lot of these folks in that group would lament that and don't like that. And Martha here writing this said it herself. And I don't like that. And we'll get into other stories this week about that too. But it's often easy for everybody to just lump everybody together into one group and just to say, academics gonna academic, as it were. And just be, they're all on one page. They're all thinking the same way. They're all doing this. Academia is so far left and what have you. What I've always appreciated about groups like this is that it demonstrates that that's not entirely true. That there are great people in academia who think perhaps very differently from each other, but also very much respect the freedom of inquiry and open disagreement that actually makes academia thrive, or at least it used to. And I think to some degree still does. And the other thing, of course, is that open disagreement and that diversity of thought really makes science thrive. And so I put this out there just to remind folks that there are folks like the Alex Smalls in academia, and they're great people. And I would have loved to have met Alex. He sounds like he would have been an amazing person to meet. We probably would have disagreed on a myriad of things, I'd imagine. Just going back and forth because we're people. Though we would have definitely agreed on the issues with groupthink in academia at the moment and some of the problems with that and the attacks on open inquiry that have happened. And so my condolences to Alex's family and to the OG working group, writers group. I want to say working group because WG just automatically comes up as working group to me in my head. So apologies on that one. But my condolences to all of them involved, and keep on doing it because I love to feature things where there's different thoughts and perspectives on this channel, and I love reading it and I love sharing it with folks myself. So that's all there is to it today. Let me know what you think. Hit the like button on the way out the door, comment on the video, share the video, subscribe to the channel, all that lovely good jazz. Until next time, I'm Adrian. May you stay curious.